Hey there, everyone, and welcome to the TXR Podcast, episode number 130 to be precise. I'm your host, Invader, and I'm gearing right to kickstart the show. But first, let me hear from the panel members and see how everyone's been doing. Megatron, Bud, I know you got a bit of a cough. I hope you're doing well, Bud. How's things at your end?
Things are so far so good on my end. Just been catching up with some gaming, and that's it. Just trying to live a little, shall I say.
Definitely.
So that's it. Being cooped up in the house and stuff.
Did you get a chance? I know you were downloading Deliver Us to the Moon, I think it was yesterday. Did you get a chance to play that?
I did not. As far as I got, it was downloading, and I ended up downer. That was all you, bro.
What was that?
Whatever science experiment he's working on came right through the mic. But you know what I played? I ended up playing. I was heavy into Destiny, and then hooked up with K Mega and Don, and been playing Halo Reach on Legendary. We're at the end. So I just before we even started the show, I jumped off that within like 2 minutes of us getting on, and we're at the last stage. So, but that was a ton of fun. You know, Halo. You know, we were talking about Halo last week, and it's just a wonderful universe, man. I love it, man. It was a good time, definitely. So, looking forward to the next iteration.
All right. Definitely. You gotta love the co-op action there. Centurion Pal, I see you picked up XCOM 2 a few days ago. Have you got a chance to fire that up?
No, I just finished downloading it to my console. I had to rotate it comes with 2 discs. I had to rotate those things out like twice. I thought it was so funny. But I'm looking forward to it. Definitely there's a lot of content there, like you guys said, and I'm really probably going to end up just disappearing into this game, and there goes my tackling of the backlog.
Yeah, like I'm a few hours into it myself, but I have the exact same collection that you do. Oh, there's a crap load of content there, and just the amount of customization you can do, it's really personal. So you get attached to your soldiers.
You get attached to them. Oh man, I'll be hitting you guys up in the DM, letting you know that I just lost one of my favorites.
Well, yeah, you know, when you lose Downer, you know, the Downer character that you're going to create, definitely let us know.
Now, but what would Downer be? Would he be like a defender, an attacker?
He'd be the sniper doing all the shit talking from the roof.
Okay, that's actually pretty funny. That's good right there.
All right. Very good, man.
Is Downer even there? Downer, are you there?
Oh, he's there.
How loud do you have that turned up to get that even come through?
God. I couldn't stop laughing at fucking clip. I was crying.
The cat's face.
Laughing.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh,
I love it.
That's pretty much my face, my reaction to it too. The vocal cords on that fella. Ooh.
He's biting the hell out of him though. Like that cat would have been tossed, man.
Cats do nothing. What are you talking about?
He's biting them.
It's the claws that I'm worried about. But
sharp teeth.
Speaking of Jeremy, though, Jeremy, I know you've received a few goodies the past week. How's the Cyberpunk controller looking in person?
It's a beautiful controller. It looks really worn. Oh, shit, I just dropped my coffee. Son of a bitch! All right.
To be continued.
Yeah, it looks fucking...
Go to commercial. God.
So, I lost my train of thought. Coffee fucking everywhere. Anyway, it has a nice little inscription, says no future on it. Pretty cool. It looks worn as hell. Then you flip it over on the back, and it has that little ninja symbol on the back. Again, I think it's one of my favorite collector's edition controllers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it does look pretty sharp. At first, I wasn't really I wasn't too interested in it, but now that I've been seeing people opening it up and getting some more personal shots of it, I think it looks pretty sharp, especially with all the little details on it, like the samurai. It has a samurai thing on the back, right?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
All right.
Overall, as far as I give it probably a B+ for just overall design. Very cool.
What's up with Pope though? Xbox Pope. Any you guys all follow him or no? Is he got a deal going on now? He's been tweeting heavy on designs for that. I don't know if
that's his thing. That's what he does.
Yeah, he's a designer. Like so.
Okay.
In his free time, he makes up like all these different, community members.
Yeah, he's done a console. He's done a console and controller for me, but I'm just thinking as of like recently, it's something like
no, he's done a couple of limited rounds of things from Microsoft. Absolutely, but
I've heard rumors he's actually doing a Series X. At least I've heard rumors.
Yeah, he's done a few things. He does good work.
Mm-hmm. No, he absolutely does. He's makes quality graphic designs and really just a very personal guy. Very cool to chat with. So great community member. But all right, gonna move along. Shock Buddy, how you been? I know you've been putting a lot of time into Final Fantasy VII, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm on I think chapter 17. I think that's either the last or I think there's one more. So I've been trying to get through that. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've been playing.
That's the remaster though you're playing, right? You're playing the remaster or are you playing the original?
I was playing the original on the Switch briefly before this came out, at least so you got past where the remake goes to.
Midgard.
Yeah, Midgard. But yeah, I played a little bit of that, but yeah, I'm almost finished with the remake. And then I would turn on my Saturn just to make sure it was like, because I was talking to Downer about this game when I have on my icon, but I was like, oh crap, did I back up that save? Because those battery saves, it's all flash memory on the Sega Saturn. So if you took out if the battery dies, all your memory goes away. So it's like, wait,
you know what?
I backed that up last time I played it.
I learned that the hard way, especially later on when I purchased a Saturn. It's just a later date, and I lost everything I had on that thing, and it was horrible. And I tried to switch it, and it just lost everything. I was very disappointed.
Yeah, that really sucks.
I feel for you. I'm sorry. No,
so you just got to back.
I really don't.
But yeah, pretty much Final Fantasy is what I've been kind of burned through.
Yeah, and were you playing Final Fantasy 13 last night too?
I downloaded it because I was bored. Because I was kind of in between like doing some other stuff yesterday. So I was just downloading the game, so I had them ready. So because I hear the staggers, some of the combat system they took from that for this remake. So figured I'd try to go back and try that. Plus, that one's Xbox One and Xbox One X enhanced. So it's weird that they select that game, and there's like a very few 360 games that are even the Xbox One X enhanced. But that one looks like almost like a current gen game, like at least the cutscenes.
Shockley, you going to admit to us that you like 13 better than 7 right now, or
never played 13, so I can't tell you that. I never played 7 up until started a couple months ago. So I never played 7 because it visually kind of looks like garbage, but like back then, that's why. So I didn't play it in the mid 2000s because going back to thinking about playing Final Fantasy 7, like that game looks terrible, like graphically. But now getting the nostalgia and knowing I'm going to be playing the remake, and then plus there's a lot of quality of life improvements on the remake. If you played on the Xbox, I think they probably have the ×3 speed, so you can just burn through the combat really quick. Because that's a long.
I started it some months back and never got a chance to finish it. I'm happy that we got 10 and 10-2 on Final.
We're about to get out. We're about to get all of them.
Yeah, I've never thought that Final Fantasy 10 and 10-2 would ever be.
People are saying, "Well,
Microsoft."
It's not like you're gonna. It's not like you're gonna finish it, Megatron. I mean,
when I have the time, I will. Damn it!
So I heard people. Some people thinking that
struggle's real for me.
I heard people saying the remake it's not guaranteed remakes coming to the Xbox. I'm like, No, it's definitely coming to the Xbox. There's no way they would put the original Final Fantasy VII on the Xbox to not bring the remake over. Plus, this is the most casual, the most user-friendly Final Fantasy game. That's the most accessible to casuals ever. So it'd be the one, like, even if like Xbox, they're saying like, had this been an exclusive to Xbox, it would have, flopped. No, it would have sold multiple millions of copies, just like it did with the PlayStation. Not maybe as many, but it wouldn't have flopped. It would have been just, pretty good as well. So there's no way they're skipping. It's Square. They bow down to money. Period. Like Crystal, what was it? Tomb Raider. They got pissed because the original Tomb Raider they said didn't do enough when it sold gangbusters. So for a Tomb Raider game.
Yeah. Well, remember, EA was very upset when Battlefield 5 only sold 8 million copies. So
wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they made a statement about that. So, but that was their own fault too.
The original Tomb Raider was like one of the highest grossing games of all time. I mean, I don't understand.
Oh, which one? PS1?
Yeah. So was part 2, and part 2 came out. It was like, most anticipated game.
Tomb Raider original. It didn't look good at all. I mean, the original Tomb Raider. I remember playing it on my friend's.
Oh my god!
I had it on the PC. It looked like ass. From my N64 to play Tomb Raider on the PC, I'm like, this game looks.
I know
like
it was all 3D,
shit.
but it was so kind of blocky.
It was boring.
Where to go.
It's running in a cave and it's an empty cave.
Guys, we're talking about. You're gonna get me fired up now.
I'm talking about in that day.
Were you one of these people that had a poster of Lara Croft on your wall?
Hey,
he had the pillowcase.
I'm not ashamed to say I've masturbated to Lara Croft in the past. I mean, I'm not ashamed.
Somebody clip that, please.
He was one of those people that were trying to find the cheat code that supposedly would make her naked in the game, weren't you?
It's 12 minutes, 10 seconds into this.
You know what? I'll tell you one thing. For its time, absolutely, the original Tomb Raider was one of the more graphical capable games out on the market. The problem with that was nobody knew what they had. So when Core made the original game, and the Eidos, I don't know how to pronounce it anymore, but there was not a lot of production value went into it. So when they made part 2, that's when things stepped up. But for its time, definitely it was revolutionary. I would say that the level design, bar none, is some of the greatest level design in gaming history that has to offer. I remember I don't want to talk about Tomb Raider all day, but the Tomb of Qualopec was probably one of my favorite levels of all time. But that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, definitely, some heated arguments going there already about Tomb Raider. Definitely a lot of thoughts on that. But I'd like to welcome everybody in the chat to the show. We got Rico Dennis, Stubbs Gaming. Thank you very much for joining in, brother. Midnighter. We got the Big Lou Ravens, Alex Basha. I saw Mr. Kima in here. All kinds of great people tuning in live already. Hey, Dizzy from Iron Lords. Thanks for dropping by, buddy.
What's up, people?
Yeah, and of course we got Starbuck United. Hey, Starbuck, hope you're doing well. And to everybody else that's joining in, thank you very much. Remember to hit like and share this out. Let everybody know what's going on, and they can tune in right here. Just so everybody knows, Tim Dog may be a little late. He may or may not be here, depending on situation, but we're going to carry on. And guys, you know what? There is a bit of news that dropped, a few hours ago. I think we're going to get into it. Somebody in the chat alluded to it earlier. There's been a Last of Us 2 leak, and apparently a developer upset with Naughty Dog, a little disgruntled. Apparently he leaked a whole bunch of different information about the game, some clips, and just some general plot points from what I'm to understand, what I've been reading. Guys, what are your thoughts on this? What's your take? Do you think that this is a major bummer for the game releasing this summer?
No, I mean, don't read them. That's all there is to it.
It's
Don't
kinda
read.
hard to avoid that.
No, it is hard to avoid. I mean, you don't have to click on something or read something that says Naughty Dog. I know I'm not. So, but as far as I'm going to respond to the disgruntled employee, you have disgruntled employees in every company. I don't care what company you work for, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's like this, for example, Naughty Dog. This is probably absolutely 100% true. So, as far as that goes, I mean, I didn't look into it too much as far as the rumors go because I seen Naughty Dog and I just skipped through it. But I think there's some truth behind it for sure.
I'm hearing
It's actual footage.
they weren't getting
It's
paid,
actual.
and I'm hearing it's more than one. As a collective, I think they were all just
Apparently
kind of way. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say before because I'm hearing that it actually wasn't a developer; it was a localizer in Brazil. So they have access to it because they're trying to do the voiceovers like in their language, and that's kind of how it happened. So it wasn't even Naughty Dog; it was somebody localizing the language in a certain region that has access to all the footage.
Okay, cool. Because I know in the pre-show, I told you I think it's funny if it was a dev because it does goes to show that you do want to be respectful to your employees, but like Downer said, there's people that have to work crappy jobs every single day. Sometimes it sucks, but you got to kind of be like an honorable person. And when you do something that affects your customer base to retaliate against the company, then it becomes questionable to me. Purely because you do see the people on Twitter that are a little upset about the fact that things have been revealed, stuff is out there. Like Downer said, you could avoid it, but there is going to be those people that are going to be going out of their way to plaster it in everybody's faces, and it really stinks for the customer.
In this case, I don't think it was it was just someone who did the voiceover work. He doesn't care about gamers. He doesn't care about So that's a whole nother thing.
Now that Shockley has said that just totally means that somebody was just out there trying to pull a publicity stunt and pretty much get some eyes on them.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just depends on the situation. We don't know what actually transpired, or they're bad employees. They're bad bosses too. I mean, you don't know who's at fault for this, and then sometimes, I don't know. It's one of those eye for an eye situations. I think sometimes you come across things where, you have just a good reason just to say, F you, pay me, or for whatever reason it is. Right now it's just rumors on, how everything all started, but I don't know who's to blame. It's probably somebody, but I can't necessarily blame the person for coming out unless I know the reason why he did it.
No, he showed his face apparently, like he doing it just to piss people off. From what I'm hearing.
And you already know he's receiving death threats from fans and all that shit.
I want to just come out and say, do you think this individual, if it was a leak from the person in Brazil, do you think this is as a result of the fact that people need more access right now because they're all working remotely? Like, would this have happened if it wasn't a remote thing?
Well, when you if you're doing voiceover work is almost always remote. So they don't actually, some come into the studio, but most of the voiceover work is done in home or at another studio. So let's say, for example, Microsoft wants to hire voice talent, a Brazil voice talent for Halo. Now they outsource that. They won't come to the actual studio and do it. They'll do it from home and or another studio. So you're almost giving this information away, willingly.
That's why I'm just like, because it just seems like they had actually a lot of information. Like they're releasing cutscenes and everything else.
Oh yeah. If they're doing voiceover work for it, of course they'd have the entire script.
See but that's where I'm just kind of like, I'm just still confused on the whole situation on like because I know you're not going to fly somebody. Do you
really have to have the entire script though to?
That's what I mean. You don't need
to play a part. I mean,
I'm a big movie fan.
Well, I think he's localizing the entire game. Like the game's done with their American voiceover work. That's probably all finished. He's probably just taking that and localizing it in their language.
Yeah, and they don't even let him keep him. Let's say he's reading it from a computer screen, and after he gets done with it, it goes away. You know, for off the. But he can just translate it according to what he's memorized or where he already did the voice work for it.
So for me, it's just confusing because I'm a big movie fan. Excuse me. And let's use Luke, I Am Your Father, for example. Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back.
Or in-game.
That page was actually deliberately missing from every available script. And the only people that were allowed to see that page on the day it was filmed were the actors involved with that scene. The crew didn't even. James Earl Jones, the voice of Darth Vader, didn't even know this until he read that line in the booth. And he even made the comment saying he had to ask the director if Darth Vader was lying, because he even wanted to know. But the thing is, they kept that on such lock and key. That's why I'm just totally shocked that like you irresponsibly allowed somebody pretty much access to the whole thing.
I would say that's a lot different than handing somebody a video game script, but you're talking about
acting's acting, right? I mean, acting's acting.
Yeah, no, you can't compare Star Wars to freaking this case.
You could make the correlation because we're talking about the most drooled over franchise right now. There is people that would sell their soul to have access to this game.
But we're talking about one particular piece in the movie as opposed to the whole thing where, I mean, if somebody wanted to, theoretically, they could have released the whole entire thing of the Star Wars.
We're not going to give spoilers, but he actually, they were talking about how certain characters were going to potentially die. Certain characters were going to have love interests and all this other stuff. I'm not going to give out spoilers right here. But I mean, like, I read some of the stuff because I'm not emotionally invested into Last of Us. But there is people out there that are voicing that they're actually kind of upset that there is some key plot twists that have been leaked out.
Yeah,
absolutely. And this isn't the first time, like in the past couple of months, that Naughty Dog has been called out. Back in March, a former developer, a former animator, former animator had spoken out against the company because of certain crunch culture going on there, that basically they encourage the developers to work long hours. I mean, sure, they do suggest to them, here's some food, take a break, but they do encourage you to work an exceptionally long time. So there is some known stuff that goes on at Naughty Dog. But it's an unfortunate situation. I mean, games do get leaked early often, but this is one that you could tell that Sony and Naughty Dog wanted to keep under wraps, in secrecy. And it's just a shame because this game, I believe it got postponed indefinitely because the dates got moved back, and now it's just postponed who knows when. And
I originally came out saying that that postponement was probably to like do something to the gamer stuff, and now I'm totally on the boat of it's just probably due to the fact that they can't get the physical games into people's hands.
Yeah, Neil Druckmann said the game's finished. It's more on the publisher side, but I wonder if this is gonna pressure them to go ahead and just release it before it's just ruined for everybody in general. Like,
well, we see what Xbox is doing with that Cyberpunk console. They're having to roll it out even though the game isn't out.
Well, I don't think it really matters per se if the game like releases a couple months down the road or not, because they still got all kinds of pre-orders, downs, physical pre-orders, and people, regardless, they're gonna have to wait to play the game anyways. So
now, If I can ask one question real quick, if you don't mind, do you think this whole situation with Last of Us 2 is going to actually affect the way publishers and the public look at digital games? Everybody's always talked about, I want to physically own my games. I want to physically own my games. And now we're seeing the shortfall of the fact that now distribution isn't there. So
I mean, Final Fantasy VII
we
sold like
knew,
gangbusters, so.
yeah. So we knew that eventually digital would be, be the
I
new
knew
phase.
digital was eventually going to be the end all
Yeah.
be all, but I
Yeah.
feel it was a very slow grind to get to where it's at now.
Yeah, is it going to
I feel
speed
like
up
Last
the
of Us-
process? I
feel like
think.
Last of Us 2 just showed all these publishers that if you are too invested into the physical copies of the game, it can actually affect the launch date of your product. And that's where I think they're going to start probably pushing heavily on people buying the game digitally, giving people discounts for buying the game digitally, or giving them access to exclusive DLC that is specific for digital copies of the game. Like, I really see them trying to incentivize digital from this point forward.
So, to answer your question, I think eventually, physical discs are going to go away. But take, for example, if you look at a country like Mexico, Mexico still plays a lot of their games in physical form, and so do a lot of these other countries. And some of these big releases, like The Last of Us 2, when you get into the nitty gritty of it, in terms of the physical disc as opposed to digital, some of these countries like Mexico, like Spain, like Brazil, like Argentina, some of these other places rely heavily on physical discs. I think the percentages is something like, I want to say 70-30 in terms of 70% physical, 30% digital. Now, I don't have the math in front of me. I don't have the statistics in front of me. I looked it up a couple of years ago, and this was a couple of years ago. So those percentages have changed. But yeah, we still have a lot of countries that rely on physical disc. In the States, we're a little bit more tech savvy. In some of these other, far richer countries and well-off countries. But yeah, other than that, we buy digital and they don't.
What do you mean? Just they don't have the infrastructure? Which you're talking about tech savvy? Is that what you probably meant, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, they don't have they have the infrastructure, but for some reason, people prefer physical over digital. It's just over there. It's a little bit slower process than it is in the States.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I don't know.
But
look it up right now.
About.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very interesting. This news obviously just popped up a couple hours ago. There's been a lot of chatter on social media about it, and people are going nuts. So my best advice to everyone is, if you're interested in the game, you have it pre-ordered, don't look at the leaks. Definitely. Steer yourself away from the temptation for sure. From what I've seen, you're good in any case, though. Guys, is it all right if I move on to the next story?
Yeah.
All right, absolutely. So moving on, and we'll move on to Xbox Game Talk, and it appears as if Xbox is about to lift the lid on game reveals soon, according to Phil Spencer. Now, Phil said in a tweet, and this is the tweet right here: reviewed plans yesterday for continued sharing through launch. Team is doing great work and adapting. I've never been more excited about Xbox plans. We've heard you. You want transparency and authenticity. We plan to keep showing that way. Next step is not too much of a wait for games. Now, Centurion, I'm going to turn to you for this one. What kinds of games would you like to see Xbox reveal for the Xbox Series X? Because, everyone is looking forward to... what everybody's looking forward to the most is the next-gen games. And what do you want to see in the strong launch game lineup?
Man, I didn't know you're going to throw that question at me. So
wow, it was only in the DM. Good job, Centurion.
No, he's asking me what do I want to see in the launch lineup. See, here's the thing. I've never had any real problem with the games that Xbox has been releasing. Everybody's been beating this drum of AAA, mature-oriented game. Let's look at oh my god, Journey to the Savage Planet, for example. That's a very childlike game in appearance, but when you get to the roots of the actual gameplay, you kind of see it's not exactly meant for children when you kind of have to run around and do some of the things you do and some of the stuff they talk about. So that's where I'm just like, just because a game looks colorful doesn't exactly brand it as a child's game. What I want to see from Microsoft in the launch lineup is some games that obviously that have been well thought out, that aren't going to be extremely buggy. Now, if we want to talk about my personal preferences, I love sci-fi games. I would love a mature-oriented sci-fi game, something I haven't seen in a while, on the scale of Mass Effect Andromeda. I enjoyed Mass Effect Andromeda, but I would enjoy to see something like that come out of one of Microsoft studios. There's a lot of potential from all of those studios to create great titles. But for me, I just want titles that have been thought out, that aren't going to release with bugs and problems, because like really, that is one of Microsoft's shortcomings. I feel this gen is not the games in general. It's just the condition of the game when they launch. I will say Sea of Thieves was a little lackluster in content.
A little bit.
Yes. I hear from rumors from the beta testers, there used to be fishes and dolphins and all sorts of stuff in the water. That would look cool. Anyways, we saw the condition of Sea of Thieves, especially when it came to how the PC gamers were completely hacking that game and running amok. We saw the tethering and the server issues out of State of Decay 2. We saw the massive flop with Crackdown 3 and the Wrecking Zone. Yes, I've been keeping a scorecard. I have been paying attention. We have seen how these games are launching in some rather lackluster conditions. Same with Gears 5. When it was being reviewed, it was great, but apparently they patched the game day one, and the patch decided to, I guess, mess some things up for people that played Gears 5. It's the kind of stuff like that that Microsoft is known for, that I'd really like to see them kind of get out of the way of. I would like for people to be like, yes, Microsoft has turned a corner. They're putting out games that are quality. Now, everybody has a preference, so I'm not going to talk about what kind of game you're looking for. It's more like, I just want to see the games function and run right and actually do, like, make people happy with the fact, rather than seeing all this stuff going around about bugs and flaws and glitches.
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand those sentiments, and I feel that way. Again, I do like these games that you've listed off in one way or another. I'll say another game, Recore.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I actually really like that game, but it was riddled with bugs and missing content that should have been there day one. I didn't get the
Recore until the definitive edition, after they had patched a lot of those problems out. And I think that's why I enjoyed Recore immensely, is because I decided to play the game after it had a lot of extensive patching.
Recore was awesome. I hope they come up with another iteration of that. Give me Recore 2, man.
Hey,
as
much
as I love Ori, I think I like the platforming in Recore a little bit better.
Just fix those load times with that SSD.
Yeah.
I also thought it was like, because at the time, like, you know, people like when you grab those jewels and you actually see the HDR and everything coming off those jewels, I think it looks awesome.
I mean, I like the designs. So
some of those dungeon maps in Recore were so vast. Like, it was like there was no way you're gonna get across that. And you figure it out. And I think they're on to something there. They better come up with another one. They have to. I hope they do. I hope somebody grabs it, man.
Now, that's another question for a day I won't ask, because wasn't Shannon Loftus involved with Recore?
Yeah, pretty
sure
she
was.
Don't get me started on Disneyland Adventures, and oh my god.
Now I have to say, I have physical copies of Zoo Tycoon and not Disneyland. What the hell's the other one? Super Lucky's Tale. And it got quiet.
Cool.
Now you're like, yeah, you're just like, oh my. No, that's what I'm just saying. I actually at the time, they were games that actually intrigued me and my wife because we're into goofy games like that. Don't ask me why.
So,
and you were into physical more than digital with that. Is that reason? Because that
well,
kind of goes back to what we were talking.
At the time, you couldn't buy. At the time, Game Pass wasn't really around or a thing with Zoo Tycoon, and Super Lucky's Tale came out before Game Pass, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So I know last podcast we spoke about how the 343 team is in a make or break. When they make Halo, this is it for them. If they do a good job, the series is gonna get revived and be successful again, in a different way. Now, I'm not talking about sheer numbers, but again, this is a make or break year for Phil Spencer. And it's been longer than that. Yes, it is, because for 3 or 4 years, Xbox fans were laughed at in terms of the content that was coming out of Xbox camp, and what Sony was dealing in order for Xbox to stem the tide as far as getting some of these games that are going to make gamers gravitate towards their console and their platform more so. They need some quality titles. And again, I think Phil Spencer is under a lot of heat as far as that goes. He needs to deliver for fans, and he needs to show these games. He has no choice. He's under a microscope, just like some of these other companies are, but even more so with Phil. People want to see these games. And if he delivers like he did with, if he under-delivers like he did with those games that you guys spoke about, it's going to be another long couple years. Wouldn't you agree?
Something like that. Now, did you guys like the Xbox One's launch lineup?
It was better than PS4s. That was easy.
Yeah, I'm right there.
So I really enjoyed the launch lineup for Xbox One. Yes, I did.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You see, so did I, because when they first showed us all these trailers for these games, granted, some of them didn't hit exactly at launch, but when I saw games like Killer Instinct get revived, I was like, whoa, that's pretty awesome. Even though it was kind of bare bones, we did see it grow. It was very successful this gen. When I saw what was originally a Kinect game get turned into like an action adventure game with Rise, and with this beautiful Roman game, I was like, wow, this is pretty fantastic, made by Crytek. Dead Rising 3 was a really good third-party buy.
That was awesome. Yeah, and Forza 5 was so slouch. It was a launch. You're talking about a launch title, and Forza 5 looked beautiful at the time.
Then Titanfall was supposed to come out in March, like months after. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Titanfall was.
I still consider Titanfall a launch title, but then you had. You had Japanese games in there, which, for a while there, Phil Spencer didn't have any.
Yeah, Dark Dreams Don't Die. That came out.
Yeah, that was a great game. That was a hardcore game. You had Crimson Dragon. But you had Crimson Dragon, and that in itself, getting that game, I know it wasn't Phil, but that was important to the Xbox brand. And Xbox got off to a good start. It looks like it was going to be close, and then all of a sudden, things went downhill from there.
Oh, it wasn't close from day one. They were getting outsold 2-1.
Well, it was 2-1. It wasn't. It wasn't day one.
Price. Oh
yeah,
day one. The PlayStation was destroying them.
I know it was
they were
cheaper.
Getting crushed in price. The media was convincing people that you were going to be watched changing your clothes. There was a lot of roadblocks put in front of the Xbox One.
Well, it didn't help that the least powerful console costs more than the PS4, which was obviously
But that was because of the Kinect that was inside the box. It didn't have to do with the greed of Microsoft.
There were older mothers I worked with that were like, "Oh yeah, that console doesn't do 1080p."
Yeah,
they were saying that, but even though most of the games on both consoles didn't do 1080p. Battlefield 4 didn't do 1080p on either.
But to me, it had the game, like all the titles that you just spoke about, Dead Rising 3, Crimson Dragon, even though Call of Duty Ghost was probably the worst one, but how amazing Assassin's Creed Black Flag was. And I know these are third party, but then you got into the first party, which you guys spoke about, Killer Instinct. Rise was the biggest one, but go ahead.
I was just gonna say I didn't buy into the Xbox One until a year after it had launched. So I wasn't buying neither the PS4 or the Xbox One day one, and I only had enough for one console. And I took a look at both libraries, and I could see, at least at that time, that Microsoft's library was larger and also had a more variety of games that I was looking for, and that was definitely what swayed my purchase. The big thing was as soon as they got that Kinect out of the box, and it had nothing to do with it being a camera, it was just an accessory I was not interested in.
Right, it was kind of forced upon everyone.
Yeah, and it was just like it's just one of those things where I didn't want it, but I was glad that they got it out of the box by the time I could afford a console. But definitely, I didn't buy a PS4 until like a year after that. But definitely, I that's why I'm saying I actually totally remember back in those days when Microsoft's library was a total 180 from what it is now.
Right.
I think Phil's doing a hell of a job. This is all we're talking about. All this stuff is a make or break year for him. I mean, he's all these new studios. He's completely turned around. That everything that people I guess disliked about Xbox. I mean, he's going after. We got Yakuza.
And that remains to be seen. I mean, we still don't have quality first party games. I mean, as far as Sony goes.
Yeah, I mean, but that's not really on him as of right now. I mean, it is on him right. It is right now on him right now because he had 5 years to fix it. But not really. I mean, he was like literally the third dude. That
still takes time. I mean, you can't pull these games out.
You didn't have that type of cachet.
I feel like I don't have to say this to you, but these games take time to develop. It just takes. The ship is going in the direction. You got to turn it around, and he's turned it around. I mean, he's turned it around. You got Japanese games now. We got all these games that that people say we're never going to come to Xbox. We're talking about this. They're now on Xbox. I mean,
why weren't these studios here a decade ago? Why did he have to put them in place? That's the problem. Like when they're talking about like PS3 turned it around. Yeah, they had studios built in place developing those games to turn out during that whole 3 years where they were doing bad. They already had those quality games, Uncharted and Last of Us, being built when they were getting kind of destroyed in those first couple of years with the PS3. He didn't have those studios to go and do that. He had like the Coalition, which was a brand new studio.
Yeah, he had a handful, not even.
And 343 that was still very young.
I love.
I don't think it's a big break for them. By the way, you keep saying that, but I don't think it. I mean, like I said, I've never played a bad Halo game. So I mean, it's just play the multiplayer, play the campaign. Some people liked it, some people didn't. And. I do think they should have fleshed out the story with Locke a little bit more. I'm going to play that soon too, by the way, with K-Mega and Don. But I don't know. I just get so confused. I mean, there's so many great things about Halo 5, and I think people are just focusing on just the one thing. I mean, which is the campaign I hear the most of. But it's just to each their own. Either you like it or you don't. And I don't know. It's a good game in my book.
Here's the thing: we're going to replace Phil with somebody else, and then they'll come in and then deliver games with these new studios. Be like, wow, that person did an amazing job with the studio and the infrastructure that Phil set up.
He put in place. Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's just.
Now, Megatron guys, I want to add on to this topic because Xbox Twitter had tweeted out something, very interesting, and it was hinting at what we're all led to believe is the Fable franchise. Now, this is what the Xbox Twitter said. When your custom character shows up in a cutscene, and then below it lists 4 figures with one having a chicken head. Now, what is a chicken usually synonymous with and associated with with Xbox games.
I couldn't
That's
figure.
usually kind of hinting at Fable. Now, guys, do you think that we're going to be seeing some kind of a new Fable game finally come out of the shadows soon?
I didn't think Fable when I saw that tweet, and I mean, eventually after people started posting about what they were guessing it would be, but I didn't think Fable. I didn't think anything. I just was trying to figure it out, man. I don't.
So, when you asked me the question of what games I'd like to be revealed, I did not automatically go to Fable, purely because I'm tired of getting my heartstrings pulled. And there has been so many Fable leaks and so many supposed Fable reveal dates that at this point, when it's kind of like when you cry wolf, Fable has been cried way too many times. I will be floored the day that it actually gets revealed.
Yeah, there has been a lot of different chatter over the past couple of years about Fable. There's been a lot of chatter, obviously, about Playground Games doing it. I mean, I think that it makes a lot of sense that Playground would be the team behind it. But I personally think that we are going to see Fable finally get shown off, because Xbox is going to be having this big unveiling event for all the Xbox Studios games coming up.
Are we going to do, I'm not trying to interrupt, but I remember last E3 I was actually hoping Fable be revealed, and now it feels like we're gonna just do this all over again for this E3 and hoping Fable gets revealed. Is that is that wrong for feeling that way?
No. But at the same time, though, if they're going to be revealing next gen, I do think it makes sense that they have a strong RPG from their first party showing off, and Fable does make a lot of sense.
And that's what I'm talking about in terms of they need to show these games, because Megatron Rewind, and I know, I don't know, just rewind to last E3, and how Sony didn't even show up. And they said, Xbox didn't either, even though they were at E3. It's just a laughing joke all the time.
I don't feel that way. Even though I want there to be a Fable, and I've been like, oh, don't pull on my heartstrings. I also don't feel
Xbox got killed on Twitter during last year's E3. Sony didn't even show up, and didn't even need to show up because Xbox didn't show up.
That's because everybody was expecting like a 14 or a 15 when they should have kept their expectations at like a 7 or an 8.
Right. So I think they need to show these games to see what they got, just to get fans excited.
Well, let's just see. That's all we can do. I mean, they're talking about transparency now more and more. You see Phil tweeting it out. So maybe we'll see it in May. Maybe we'll see it in June. So
I think someone was saying May 5th was a rumor, but
that'd be cool.
A possibility. But I think they're definitely going to show the games. Like if they're able to show Hellblade 2 that early in development, I'm pretty sure they're going to have quite a bit of firepower to announce here in the next month or so.
Definitely. Yeah, I think it was Rand who brought that up. I think I remember watching his videos a few days ago, and he had suggested that, if I'm not mistaken. But does anyone else have anything to add to this topic, or can we move on?
We shall move on.
Let's go.
All right. I like it. And next, I want to bring up, a bit of news regarding a certain composer, Mick Gordon. I'm pretty sure everybody here knows who he is. He's done the music for Killer Instinct, Wolfenstein, and 2 of the recent Doom games. Oh, and Killer Instinct as well. However, it looks like there's a bit of a feud going on between Mick and Bethesda. The Doom Eternal, recently released, and fans were noticing discrepancies in the tracks for the Doom Eternal soundtrack. Now, according to Mick, he only mixed a handful of the tracks. And in other posts across social media, he stated that he doubts he'll ever work with Bethesda again. Now, Jeremy, I'm going to go over to you for this one, because we're both obviously massive gaming soundtrack fans here. What would it be like for a franchise like Doom to lose an artist like Mick on board?
Not that he's not talented, but he's replaceable. Somebody like Gareth is not replaceable. You can't replace Gareth. some of these other composers like Jeremy Soule, who does Bethesda, I'm sorry, he does the Skyrim soundtrack, he does Fallout. He's considered, one of the best. Same thing for Tommy Tallarico. He during his time. Mick's replaceable, and you can find somebody to easily replace him as far as some of these games go. So nowadays there's so much talent out there, and people don't want to game companies don't want to pay those salaries anymore. So soundtracks kind of get left behind in terms of that's an afterthought now. But back in the days, it used to be where people used to spend a lot of money on the soundtrack alone. So I don't know. It's just, I think, are they going to miss them? I know you like the soundtrack for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it just depends on people's preference.
You wouldn't have thought Martin O'Donnell was replaceable, but he was replaced.
Yeah, I don't think he's replaceable. Even though I think,
get up out of here.
even though I think, Destiny 2 has a great soundtrack. I don't know who does it now, but
I can't believe what Activision did to him though. Oof. And Bungie. Ooh, that was rough with the original Destiny soundtrack.
Yeah. But as far the mixing goes, usually the person that does the soundtrack has very little to do with the mixing and some of the level implementation in it. That's up to whoever edits or mixes the entire thing, the entire process. But for example, Gareth was very heavy in his mixing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, Gareth was an absolute master with the soundtrack. I mean, we've chatted with Gareth, just over a year ago, and very insightful fella, very smart, and just he made a beautiful score with Will o' the Wisps, obviously. But even with, you say that Mick Gordon can be replaced, but to me, he's just synonymous. I know we're going to talk about personal preferences here, but the guy is a master. You look at the work that he did on Killer Instinct, and Mick they transitioned over another artist, I believe it was Atlas Plug, into the Killer Instinct Season 3, and a lot of people noticed just the quality of the work, just the difference in it, and it just, his personality definitely lended to the game, and it just wasn't the same after Mick left. So I think that there's a certain attachment to certain artists on these soundtracks.
Yeah, a lot of these games, there's certain attachments for sure. So at the top of my head, obviously you have Ori and the Blind Forest, you had Halo, the original Halo with Marty. People were really angry when Bethesda, Jesus. When they decided to up and leave, some of these other companies and people.
Mm-hmm. So really quick, what's the soundtrack for Doom? Is it just metal? What type of? I don't remember. I have Doom, the first one.
Here it's like heavy metal.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like 96% heavy metal with some soft tracks in between. But the rhythm is so good. It really blends well. And I can't, maybe somebody else could take over, but to me, it's not the same. When they rebooted Doom and you got like all these heavy metal chords and it is beautiful. It's not just a random mix of sounds. It just sounds so good, and it just blends so well with the action going on. It is a symphony, I would say, of metal and blood and guts. So just very enjoyable, to say the least.
I'm sure he'll be missed if he decides to take his talents elsewhere. So, but
definitely. But you know what, guys? I'm gonna transition over to another topic, and you know what, guys? Minecraft Dungeons is coming out next month, and we're hearing more info about a drop. Now, according to the game's FAQ page, there will not be any online matchmaking featured in it. Now, you can still invite friends to it to play it, but you are not allowed just to play with randoms to join in. Now, I'm going to pass this over to you, Megatron. Is having no online matchmaking limiting the growth of the game?
Growth? I don't know. I mean, Minecraft itself as a franchise is doing so well already. I think people are going to attach to that automatically. As far as the matchmaking, I guess it just depends on the type of game Minecraft Dungeons is going to be, like, what it entails. I mean, I'm hearing it's going to be similar to like a Diablo. I mean,
yeah, it's a dungeon crawler pretty much. It's following that kind of a gameplay style. You can invite yeah, it's got 4-person co-op in it, but it's mostly just for people that you can't just have anybody join in.
I honestly don't see it being a bad thing. I mean, you can invite your friends as long as you can play it single player or what have you. No problem in my book, to be honest. I mean, I don't know what everybody else thinks. I'm fine with it either way.
But
now,
I mean,
you can still
ahead,
play
Sean.
with your friends, right? You were saying.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's like Destiny, kind of like Destiny when you did raids. You had to. There's no matchmaking. You had to group up.
Yeah, it's similar to that. But I mean, if it was just you, and let's say you don't have enough friends for it, yeah, I mean, I would like at least the option to just play with some randoms. That would be a pretty nice feature to have, especially at launch. I mean, Microsoft is known for its online play, and it does have all these Azure servers and whatnot. It would be nice for them to take advantage of a host of these features that they do have at their disposal.
I do think
it was coming later, or maybe.
Yeah, I do think it's going to come later.
Oh, okay.
So there's that. I mean, a lot of these things don't get implemented just due to either budget or tech constraints. I know it sounds funny, but what company's making the Minecraft dungeons? I don't remember.
Mojang still.
Yeah, it's actual Mojang as far as I know.
I mean, heck, Street Fighter, when it came out for PlayStation, the online play didn't come out until I think months later, if I'm not mistaken, right? You couldn't even. What were you
correct. Yeah, it wasn't even implemented at the time of the launch.
Welcome to the new norm. But I mean, I'm still looking forward to playing the game. So, and I already got my crew lined up. So
Minecraft's going to sell I think this game's going to be big. So it's just one of these titles. Diablo, the RPG elements in Diablo are very popular, just with the play mechanics and stuff like that. But I think the game's still going to be a hit.
I agree. I mean, anything with the Minecraft tag to it, I think is going to sell like hotcakes personally. But I mean, they are, I'm assuming, just trying to protect younger audiences too, so that they're not matched up with randoms, spouting different things and swearing and whatnot. Because I mean, Minecraft does skew very young, correct? So
I didn't get into Minecraft, until late in the game. I mean, right now my kids were playing, this weekend, and I was kind of feeding off their enthusiasm and just, watching my daughter just kind of build and the other one in the background trying to tell her what to do. They enjoy it. I don't really see the appeal for myself, but because they're enjoying it, I'm enjoying it. So, Minecraft for me was Dungeons now, which is definitely going to pull me in, and the Telltale series, Minecraft, which was pretty damn good. If you guys ever played that, if you're into that sort of thing. That's where I am with Minecraft as far as that goes, that world. But I'm looking forward to Dungeons. It's going to be good.
Yeah, we should get some co-op going, some TXR co-op for that.
What's 4-player, right? It's up to 4 players, I think, from what I read. 4-player.
Yeah, well, we
co-op.
can have a couple
yeah.
of games going.
Yeah, we should. We should definitely.
I tried to get invited to the beta, and I'm still waiting.
Well, I didn't realize that the beta was on, to be honest with you, but it does look like fun. Like, I'm not a Minecraft person myself, but something like this where you're like crawling through dungeons and doing all that, like all the stuff that you would associate with a dungeon crawler, it does definitely pique my interest. But guys, since we're on the topic of Minecraft, have any of you on the panel seen the screens or videos of the ray tracing enabled for Minecraft, just the regular Minecraft?
Yeah. Remember I brought it up.
He showed it, yeah.
Because it looks gorgeous. Like,
yep, absolutely. If you remember the interview with Paris, I mentioned, check out the Minecraft ray tracing, and at the time it was still, still unknown, one of these unknowns where people really didn't get a chance to see it. But as you can see, it's a totally different experience with it on. But the counter Megatron's saying, he doesn't really seal the appeal. There's a reason why it's one of the greatest selling games of all time, because, I mean, it's, for a simplistic game, there's a lot of depth to Minecraft, underlining depth to it. And I think it appeals to everybody, not just kids, but, it's a game that parents could play with their kids and vice versa. And there's some pros out there that make some crazy stuff. I don't know if you've ever seen.
Well, I've seen some of the streamers that were doing it, most definitely. But just for me per se, it's just not my thing.
No,
but now it's starting to grow on me. It's starting to grow on me more and more. Like I said, my kids, and seeing how enthusiastic they are, and then showing me. I'm watching my daughter dig this hole. I'm like, how are you going to get out of it? And she's like, the ladder's right here. You just click on this ladder, and you just climb up. And then she's got wings, and I'm watching them make their own worlds and these castles, and just it's starting to grow on me. So
it's funny. The very first time I played Minecraft, I never forget about that. You never forget about that first night to where it gets dark and the monsters come out and some shit happens. You end up digging yourself in a hole, trying to survive the night. It's just some of those experiences that are special in Minecraft that you can't get anywhere else.
Like, again, I'm not a Minecraft player per se, but just when I see the ray tracing turned on and off, it is night and day difference. I couldn't believe the textures and the realistic lighting, and just how. I mean, to someone who wasn't playing it before, it makes me want to play it now. That's how good it looks.
I see Jeremy digging himself a hole in real life and trying to get out of this monster.
I'm digging myself a hole in this podcast right now. Jesus Christ. I'm so distracted right now. I got people texting me, and I don't know.
Let me call you now to add to it.
No.
Drop some more coffee.
Yeah.
He's getting distracted by his gorgeous controller collection. But all right, fellas. All right, we'll move on from Minecraft, and we'll go on to another topic. Final Fantasy, the Final Fantasy VII remake is doing exceptionally well. It's breaking. Oh, what's the stats? It was breaking 3.5 million copies sold and shipped in only 3 days, according to Square Enix. So, pretty good numbers there, to say the least, fellas. Now, Shock, as we were talking about before, I know you've been really into Final Fantasy recently. What do you think of the remake so far?
Yeah, I think they did a really good job kind of adapting the combat. I think they've taken the menu system from Final Fantasy 12, the stagger system that a lot of RPGs do now, that was in 13, and some of the more combat if you played, I guess, 15. But it's the combat is really good, and it definitely pressures you early on to not just stay on one character, but there's a balance and flow that you have to switch to one of your other characters. Once you've done your special attacks with one, flow to another to really kind of, dominate the bosses or the enemies. But it's really, really cool.
All right, very nice. Now, how far? I know you said a time, but how far are you into it right now?
I'm on the last. I'm like halfway. I think I'm almost finished with the last chapter, or it's the second to last chapter. So I'm pretty close to the very end, where you're about to leave. I guess Midgar.
Definitely. All right. So with the updates that were given to the game, do you think that they should have left the combat as it was like back in the old game, or do you really approve of the updates that they made to the combat?
Yeah, they definitely made the right decision. It would have been a complete waste of time to just do, hey, there's an updated version of a just turn-based. It would be so boring.
That's a great point, Sean.
And you can play it like that anyway. It gives you a classic mode where you can kind of sit there and do that. Plus, if you're actually just doing the regular version of the game, you can kind of use that menu system that was in like Final Fantasy 12. When you hit the X button, it freezes, like slows the game down to a super slow-mo, basically. So you can pick, okay, let me switch to this character, have him heal, or do this ability. So you can kind of sit there and strategize. If you want to really slow down the game like that, you have that option. Or you can just shortcut some of the moves and play it like more of a hack and slash. Or you can totally mix both. So it really gives you the option of however you want to play. You kind of do whatever you want.
All right. Very interesting. Does anybody else on the panel have Final Fantasy VII?
I'm holding out for Xbox because I only have a Xbox for now. But,
I have it, but I haven't played it yet. So I've been busy.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's a reason now that works.
Yeah, like the last 3 days I had a bunch of schoolwork. And it's just like on top of work. Yeah.
Definitely. Now, this is a huge grab for PlayStation, obviously, having an exclusive, a timed exclusive like Final Fantasy VII. It's a gigantically well-known older title. Do you think Xbox should do a similar kind of an exclusivity deal for one of these classic games?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, even PC is getting timed exclusives with Gears Tactics. No. And Xbox gets left behind like always. But no, yeah, absolutely. They need to snatch these up. You see the business model being pushed around everywhere. Epic has done it a few times, and they're in the process of doing some more. And Sony is just notorious at doing it. Xbox at one time did it with the Tomb Raider franchise and a couple other games.
But with the Tomb Raider franchise, they were the ones that brought back the IP, so they helped pay for the development of that game, right? I think that would be the only way they would do that. I think they should be more satisfied if they both came out on both consoles at the same time. I don't see them doing it, and I think they know that Final Fantasy VII's coming. So
yeah, but it's still huge for Sony for snatching it up. Being a timed exclusive, and again, it's just another reason to own a PlayStation. If you don't have one, if you're the one out of the 100 million people that doesn't have one yet, but
I feel like it's a complete waste of time for them to do it. At least from a gamer's perspective. Like I hear a lot of Sony fans are like, well, they're catering to me as a gamer. I'm like, no, they're not. That game was coming to you regardless. Square was not doing, hey, we're gonna do an exclusive Final Fantasy VII game to Xbox. They're not doing that. So if anything, all they did was took away a game from Xbox and PC gamers, something that wouldn't affect you anyway. So they give you shit. But I mean, it's just you saw with Crystal Dynamics.
It does affect, if you think about it. It does.
They didn't like it. They weren't like, I'll buy an Xbox now. No, they didn't buy it. They just like, screw it, I'll play Uncharted. Comes out in a couple months. Like it just bombed. Well, part of that was because it went up against Fallout 4, but still, it didn't earn them. Everybody was pissed about it. Like, you saw it in the media, people on like Twitter, social media. They were just angry at them for doing it because all they were doing was taking away a game. They weren't investing in a new game. They didn't create something like, here's what we made for you. They just took it away from you.
It's funny how it's okay for Sony to do it, but not Xbox.
I wanted to point that out.
Don't you think it hurts them, though? I think it just hurts the company.
It does hurt them.
No, I'm not talking about Xbox. I'm talking about a company that's selling a product. You just hurt yourself.
No, they're making money off it.
Yeah, but
the Xbox,
I see maybe DLC or something like that per se, but have you only just sell to certain brand, and that's you just lose out on money.
Have you ever figured out why people do it in the first place, Megatron? No, answer your question, buddy.
No, I'm not going to figure it out.
I totally understand why Sony or Microsoft would do it. Just from a gamer's perspective, when they do that, it's like, it didn't give me anything. It just kept somebody else from playing it that doesn't give me anything. Like, it doesn't do anything.
But it does something for Sony.
I wanted to point out
not for a Sony gamer. It does absolutely nothing for a Sony gamer.
Right.
Just that was a PlayStation fan. What did it do for them? They didn't get any extra content or anything. They just got to know that, hey, people that have an Xbox and PC can't play it. That's it.
Yeah.
That was a multi-plat game that they just money had it. Like, oh, okay, these people can't play it, but they didn't give you anything. They could have took that same whatever money bag they gave Square and created something.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not true, Shockley. They gave them emotional experience again with Ares dying. No, I'm just kidding.
Emotional what?
Actually, well, yeah, you might be. Never mind. I haven't got to that, so I don't know. I've just heard stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we've heard Phil's comments before about timed content, timed exclusivity. He doesn't seem to like that, doesn't want to carry it forward. But let's say they were to get a full exclusive, like, let's say what they did with Dead Rising 3, for example. I mean, that ended up being a very good grab from them early on this generation, and kudos for them to picking it up. Very strong title there. But if they were, let's say, to... well, I don't know, get another, let's say a Capcom title. Let's say Resident Evil. I'm just going to put a title out there. Resident Evil 4, for example. Would that be a good get for them?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the only way it's really going to be good for them is if they just go, which they're probably not going to do, but to go back to where everything's just exclusive. You have to buy an Xbox, because that's what people are going to do. If Final Fantasy VII was timed exclusive to the Xbox, the PlayStation gamers would probably just, either buy it on PC, or what they could do, they could still do the PC and Xbox thing, but make it so that, hey, you have to get it on, you have to subscribe to Game Pass to play it or something. Like, it gets you in that subscription. If you're going to shell out that money, you might as well get it into your service.
Am I the only one with as far as the Resident Evil remakes go, the only one wants Code Veronica over Resident Evil 4? Am I the only one?
I think everybody, that's a cold take on Twitter.
Oh, man.
I want both, but
I still have mine for
GameCube. Is
GameCube.
the one that needs it.
So
Yep.
I'm not as huge on the Resident Evil games as a lot of other people. Even though I admire the series, but if I may ask, what's the big difference between the two?
Well, as far as the control standpoint, I mean, it's Resident Evil 4. It's a different experience. It's much more accessible,
more like modern, yeah.
Yeah, it's much more modern. The controls are a little bit more. It's not so rigid and two-dimensional. The Resident Evil 4 brought new gameplay elements to the series. It revolutionized the series in many ways, which now is the new blueprint of all the Resident Evil series games. And overall, it was just a great experience going from, and it was a different experience from a story standpoint. It touched on the cult. I forgot exactly the story. Jeez, I was just, made reference to the cult as well as what Umbrella Corporation did and how everything intertwined and yeah.
No, well, they're remastering everything, so you might get your wish, right? Unless there's something we don't know about that's keeping them from doing it.
I remember when they started making remastering the Resident Evil series on the GameCube. If you guys remember that bit.
Yeah, I do vaguely remember.
Yeah, so we got the essentially the GameCube versions when they released 0 and Part 1. So that's essentially the GameCube game, or GameCube games, I should say.
Mm-hmm. All right, definitely. Now, guys, I'm going to move on to what will probably be our last topic of the evening. And there's been, we had talked about different teases for games from Phil earlier, but there's also been a slew of other Xbox news making the rounds. Logos, Xbox Lockart being in take-home testing, and other stuff. Oh my. Now, Jez Corden over at Windows Central dropped an article recently, and in it were some, interesting tidbits to say the least, that Xbox employees are doing take-home testing of the Xbox Lockart console. Supposedly it's a thing. There's been different stuff about it going back for the past couple of years now, but supposedly it's going to get unveiled really soon. It's an actual thing now. Now, is it a good move to announce another console so soon after the reveal of the Xbox Series X a couple of months ago?
That's why I was confused on why exactly they would make Lockhart. But I mean, if they're going to do it where it's Series S as opposed to Series X, and it makes sense to build the system the same, then I could see that. It's just. But at the same time, part of me thinks that maybe this is a bad deal for the consumer where, and I'm going to refer back to people are going to get confused. I know you guys have the saying that, now phones are released in such a manner, in such a way where, you have updates, but when it comes to consoles, it's a different experience when you go out and purchase a console. So maybe I'm the only one, but I mean,
you think people are going to get confused?
I think people are going to get confused.
They didn't. So they already did this when they launched announced the Xbox One X, right? And then the S. That was all announced the same day. Was it not?
Well, no. It's the Xbox One S came out a lot sooner than the X did.
Mm-hmm. I think what Jeremy's suggesting here is that this would be a scenario where two consoles potentially would be announced and possibly coming out around the same time period.
Yeah.
So, I don't think it would be that big of a deal personally. I mean, a lot of us are already in the know. I'm assuming, I would hope that they would have their labeling game on point with the boxes. Hopefully, they're different sizes as well, just to make a point in difference. Because, I mean, it is possible to get confused, especially if somebody's some kid's mom's going out. Oh, hey, can I get which console is it? I mean, there could be some confusion, but at the same time, a lot of people.
I mean, that's how it is. To all the consumers out there, it's the majority of people are just,
most of the time when I go shopping and there's an A and there's a B and there's a price difference, you have a description there on a little label, and then if there's still some confusion, you ask the salesperson, and that's it. Where's the confusion?
When it comes to consoles, it's a lot different. Because how can I put it? What? Go ahead.
No, I just don't see it. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
I think they're going to be stark differences. There'll probably be what people are thinking it's going to be probably white or something.
Well, the rumors are true. 4 teraflops versus.
Well, do you remember seeing that? I think it was maybe a fan made. But if they did something like that, where you saw those labels of that graphic of the series, the Lockart and the Series X, it kind of told you this one does 4K. And then the other one tells you it doesn't like do 4K. Does
I
like
do think both are going to do 4K. I just think one's going to just perform better.
or like it said, it doesn't play like Blu-rays. Like it had like 3 distinct markers of like, here's what this does. Here's the 3 differences, major differences to get. That's what you need to know. And so that way you can make a decision. You're not having to like read the box in like small fine print of like, what's the difference? Yeah, it was 3 like distinct markers. Both the box. I don't know if that's real or if that was some probably just.
I think it was just fan made, but I've seen a few different graphics come up where somebody did one with the Series X tower, the black tower, and then there was a smaller one, and they labeled the Lockart the Xbox Series S, I believe, and it was much more compact, and it was a white console. Now, I think something like that, where you have the differences pronounced like that, is a very smart move. If they were to launch them around the same time, that would make a nice contrast, personally.
What's everybody think in the chat, too, by the way? You think there's some type of confusion? You think if mom and dad or grandpa or grandma went to the store, people can't figure out the differences? It blows my mind that someone can't just read and tell just with the price and everything. It's just, I don't know, beyond me. I
mean, people figure it out with Apple iPhones with their terrible naming, and there's way more choices to confuse you.
Well, each year, then that's the thing too, right? Different phone companies, for example, these phones are a heck of a lot more expensive than these consoles, and they get released yearly, and they're either iPhone X or iPhone 10 or Samsung Galaxy whatever, right? Like they have all kinds of different names attached to them. They come out yearly, but people seem to know what they are, so it's not usually a big deal. But it is interesting, guys, that we're hearing about take-home testing now. Back in December, Phil Spencer mentioned take-home testing for what was then Project Scarlet, now known as the Xbox Series X, that the console was officially unveiled a few weeks later. Now, should we expect an unveiling for the Lockart if, some kind of an event relatively soon then?
It's possible. I mean, maybe we're talking about in May. It could be a flip-flop between the Series X or Series S. So maybe they'll decide to unveil what the games look like exactly on the S, or maybe in June for the X. So we'll see.
Definitely. Now, I mean, obviously we're just playing a guessing game here, guys, but I mean, a lot of people are labeling it the Series X. Do you think that Xbox will go for something like that, something very similar to the Series X, Series S, or I've seen Series E being thrown around there? Do you think they'll go with that kind of a naming scheme?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what's going to happen. I think for sure Series S and Series X, 100%.
Yeah, and I was looking at that graphic I just found. So on the Series X, on that I think probably fan made, it says up to 8K for the X, does 4K, has a 4K Blu-ray player, and does up to 120 frames per second. And then you had the S model where it says no 4K, no Blu-ray, does up to 60 frames per second and can do up to 4K. So it's like those 3 distinct things. That's what the customer wants to know, and you're in and out. That's an easy decision to make.
I heard rumors that the CPU is going to be the same. Did you guys hear that? I thought it was going to be the same. I think
CPUs, they're both going to be like next gen. Like
I think they're both going to be 60.
AMD RDNA.
The reason why they're bringing the S is to just get rid of the 30. I mean, I won't be surprised if there's still some games that still come out that are 30 frames per second, mostly single player experiences. But I think they're trying to get rid of that whole just 30 frames per second experience. I think they want to move forward from that and just make.
So let me ask you guys a question. Let's say these systems come out at the same time, okay, and we know the Series X is probably going to be a lot harder to get your hands on, theoretically, than the Series S. Would you go out and buy a Series S, beforehand rather than the Series X?
No, I think I just still wait on my pre-order for the Series X personally. That's just me. I would want the more. I would want the power. I would want the more heavily touted console rather than. I mean, but then again, there's a lot that we don't know about the Lockhart. But I mean, if it is significantly like less power or like more of a downgrade, I would say, then I mean, I would just wait personally.
I would wait too, since the first round of games are going to be able to play on my X anyway. So I mean, the first couple of years, until they really just kind of push things forward. So, but yeah, I would probably wait until the. Most of us probably would, right? I mean, we're hardcore. I think we considered that. Just wait.
Well, if I couldn't get my hands on an X, I'd probably buy the X. That's just me.
Well, hey, you buy like multiple different controllers for crying out loud of the same controller, so I'm not surprised there.
See, that's different with the Cyberpunk one, because I wanted to open one and then just keep the other one in the package. That makes
That's
sense.
the confusion of things. He said, I'm pretty sure that price will make them ask questions. We were talking just a few seconds ago about and that's my same thing too. I just think most consumers are real conscious of how they spend their money, and they want to know what they want to know what they're buying. And I think it's easy. Just hey, what's this mean? What's the price? What am I getting?
And what if the Series S can come out even before the PlayStation 5 and the Series X? Will it be more of an advantage or less than an advantage?
Well, I would say the price point would be the advantage, right? Depending on where they try and nail Sony.
So I think maybe we might get Lockhart a tad bit earlier than what we think we're going to get. I mean, what if it's coming out in September? What if it's coming out October? No, October. That'd be interesting. Very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've never seen this before, where a company would be interested in releasing two consoles to start the gen, or the next gen. So,
well, to be fair, I mean the 360 will launch with the Pro system and the Core system. It was two different systems.
True.
And I know from my experience, I know there was a lot of confusion at that time. There was tons of confusion. So that's why which leads me to believe that there's going to be confusion on this one.
Jeremy was confused. Just say.
But it is a different era and a different
there might be some confusion amongst maybe some older demographics. Like some people do get lost.
But that's what I'm saying. They're not like us. They're not like the hardcore where they're, where they're tech savvy into the majority of people who in the world who just buy games are just average. They don't read up on this stuff. They don't. So that's what leads me to believe that there's going to be confusion on this stuff.
Just tell them to buy these games, these consoles and games anyway. They're kids or grandkids, right? So, grandma, here, I'm gonna write this down and give you a picture. Here's the price. This is what I want. So little Timmy just said, hey, just in case you get lost.
Why is it gotta be Timmy? Why does it have to be little Timmy?
That's it. Like, this is what we want, damn it. And don't get it wrong, or else hide your teeth.
Now, everybody in the chat, are you guys specifically bent on getting a Xbox Series X, or possibly are you gonna hold out for maybe a Lockhart? What are you guys thinking about getting? If the Lockhart is lower priced, but still can play next gen games, do you think you'll go after it?
Well, I know I'm gonna get both, but I'm aiming for the X for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, from what we're to understand, especially from Tim, that things might be it might be a little scarce, possibly with the supply line. So
yeah, and that's why I asked the question: which one would you buy if one was available over the other?
Mm-hmm. So, well, hands down for me personally, it would be the Series X. I would wait.
I can see myself buying both too, by the way. The X would be mine, and because my kids will be handling it, the other one heavily because they're game.
Yeah.
Definitely, we get the
sure.
conversion. That much less of a loss.
Dreadpool in the chat, older like 50 something. Some of us are in the grandparent range. We know the difference. So yeah, I don't know, guys. There you go, Jeremy.
He knows the difference because he's a hardcore gamer or a gamer in general. But no, sorry, he's wrong.
You heard it here, folks. Sorry, Dreadpool. But now some sleuths discovered a trademark for the logo for the Series X, and it's pretty simple by design with a vertical lettering beside an X silhouette. Guys, I'm not sure if you've seen it, and if you have, are you a fan of it at all?
I can care less.
It looks fine to me. It's not that big of a deal to me. It looks great.
Yeah.
Series X, Series S, sold.
That gets me thinking about some of the worst logos of all time. What are some of the worst gaming logos of it? Probably the Atari Jaguar was pretty bad. What else?
I have to think about that.
Gaming logos?
Yeah, I love the Dreamcast logo. I love that thing. That was awesome. The Sega Saturn was pretty bad. Even though I liked it, it was pretty bad.
I just didn't focus on something I would never ever think about. It would stop me from buying a game console, so I wouldn't think about the logos. I don't know.
Well, I will say this: the Google Stadia, I'm not a big fan of whatever.
Yeah, that was
logo
pretty
it had.
bad.
Like to me, if you flipped it upside down and put some lines going above it, it looks like a turd.
I don't even remember what it looks like, though.
Google it and you'll see what I mean. It's not a very well thought out logo.
The Panasonic 3DO one was pretty cool. Trying to think what else.
Images.
Nintendo 64 was an awesome one. Super Nintendo was great. Sega Genesis was great.
I see the CD. It's like kind of like a weird looking S. From when I'm looking
the
at
Vita was horrible. PlayStation Vita was horrible. Yeah.
Careless.
I wasn't a fan of the Wii logo. I know it was just Wii, but
yeah, the Wii was pretty bad.
I didn't really care for
that. Or
that.
the Wii U was really, really bad. I still don't know why it was called the Wii U. Jesus. Talk about a bad era for Nintendo.
Was that like a translation thing, I wonder? Like something that was just lost in the translation for things, something different, from Japanese to English, and then it just didn't.
The Wii U just so bomb. It was probably their worst system of all time.
Like, I thought the GameCube was really cool. Even like the logo, I didn't mind for it. Like, I just thought it was cute too, the console itself, but.
You remember it had the handle on it where you just walk, back and you could walk around with it, carry it, had the handle on the back.
Yep.
Yeah,
I remember that. No, I liked the Wii. That was a great system. What was the Ouya symbol? I'm just trying to think.
There was not really. I like that system actually. It was really good for emulators. I was an Ouya fan. I had the Ouya. I love that. I love that thing. The controller was god awful, but in terms of the system, I really liked it.
Since we're going off topic on stuff, so did anybody happen to catch the Fortnite extravaganza with Travis Scott and the video he did? Like, did anybody see that?
No.
I caught a bit of it, but
they did a hell of a job with that. I was impressed. They are really doing, I think, a great job with Fortnite. I've never seen that done before, but man, like I was impressed. Check that out if you guys get a chance. I mean, it's not heavy metal, but I think they did a great job.
Well, they put him in the game or something, right?
Yeah, I mean, they did this whole like kind of intro. He just came out of nowhere and just like put on like this show. I don't know if that was an introduction to the new season, But I'm not a Fortnite player, but I think it was great to see. It was different.
Yeah, I was hearing that make the rounds, and it sounded pretty cool. I did catch a couple of clips of it, and I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting that they include him in the game, and he's putting on he was just putting on a bit of an act, right, from what I could tell.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that was pretty interesting.
Cherry, did you see that? No. Cherry, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
See which
I
part?
don't know. You haven't been here for like 4 topics, buddy.
What are you talking about?
Good job.
I tried talking. I thought my mic wasn't working or something.
No, you were eating. It's all right though.
I was eating. What are you talking about?
By the way, have you got your food yet?
Yeah, De Niro agrees. He said it was.
Oh
pretty
God,
nice.
yeah, that was like God. I'm on to see what time.
That was 4 topics ago. Yeah, good
An hour
job.
and a half ago. No, what are you talking about? 4 topics. I was.
Giving you shit, Centurion. Jesus.
I know.
Yeah,
We're all talking about the logo and stuff. Like I thought the logo was. To me, it's just a logo. I'm not a PlayStation fan that totally starts jumping up and down like a giddy little girl when I see the logo of my new console. I'm sorry. I know it was just the reveal of the PS5, and there was that GIF going around where it was showing like everybody jumping up and down screaming for the reveal of the PS5 logo.
Well, I guess the thing is they didn't show much or anything of the console yet. They only showed the logo. I mean, if I was to compare both the Series X and the PS5 logo, like they're about the same to me. Like it's just yeah. They're both similar in a lot of ways. So, I mean, you could say that the Series X is more modernistic with the way that they're going about it, but otherwise, they're both pretty simple and plain. I
feel like I'm just going to give input on what Downer said about being confused. I would be shocked because senior citizens go out every single day and buy televisions and refrigerators, and they're able to make decisions based on the information in front of them. And I really do feel that other people can have, stuff put in front of them and they can make decisions. I just really don't think that consumers get confused unless by some chance you have a vulture of a salesman and you allow yourself to be manipulated. Because I mean, like I work in a sales industry. I've seen guys that could sell snow to an Eskimo. It's just one of those things where, yeah, definitely. I totally lost the direction on that. I'm just saying that people can make decisions, and I don't see why there's going to be confusion. If the Series S came out before the X, the Series X, I'm going to hold out for the Series X. Just because I want that premium experience. And I know with a premium experience, there's going to be generally a premium price associated with that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I totally hear you, man. I don't think that there'll be very much confusion. Like, I'm not too worried about that. That we've gone through so many years now where there's been all kinds of different iterations of consoles, different system refreshes. They've all had little Pro names attached to them or 1X and so on. There didn't seem to be a confusion. So I'm very hopeful going forward with them having multiple consoles out in the wild. So, but we'll see in the coming weeks where that leads.
You can't go wrong with either one, to be honest. I mean, it's definitely an upgrade, whether you either get the S or the X. I mean, 60 frames per second on steady on the ready. I don't know. I think it's a win-win. It's just how much you want to pay. And for me, I would probably get both. And I probably want the leather seats. I want all the bells and whistles. So, yeah, I would get the X and, like I said, the S, too. So, either way, you're going to get a great experience.
And if people can figure out the 1X and the 1S right now, I don't see how they're going to get confused, especially if you kind of go in with that thinking the X is, X just like the 1X is the more powerful one, and the S is the lower.
Shockley! Are you driving again?
You know it. Sorry, I was picking up my wife.
It's not.
You're fine.
It's funny.
All right, fellas, and I think that just about wraps up tonight's show. And we did have some pretty good talking about some of the juicy Xbox teases and yes, very juicy. And the unfortunate situation between Mick, Gordon, and Bethesda, and all the Last of Us 2 leaks that have been popping up the past few hours. But yeah, guys, always eventful in the industry. And thanks to everybody who came to watch the show live. Folks like Dreadpool, De Niro Primero, thanks Diego, Alex Basha, Magnetic Storm. Who else do we got
Midnighter.
Yeah, Midnighter. Thank you very much, buddy. Who else? Oh, yeah, Fastback from NLG Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, bud. Shizno Elite. Dizzy from Iron Lords. Other Zinc. Victor Alistine. Lots of cool people.
A lot of new faces. Born Distracted, if I said his name right.
Oh, yeah.
New people in here, yeah.
Well, he tunes in pretty regularly. We got a lot of familiar faces in here, but yeah, some new ones definitely join us. But thank you guys very much for tuning in. We really appreciate you jumping in and listening to us talk live and talk different shit and just different banter. And guys, if you haven't done so already, then definitely share this show out, leave a like, and drop a comment after the show. Now, guys, let's get on to some intros. Shock, where can everybody find you at, pal?
Yeah,
on the freeway.
On the freeway, yeah. You can find me at Shock Nero on Twitter, Easy Shock on Xbox and PSN. But yeah, it was a pretty good show. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. Safe travels there, Shock. Megatron, always great hearing that smooth voice of yours. Where can everybody find you, pal?
Hit me up on Mixer. I've been trying to do some streaming as of late. So Mixer and on Xbox One is the same. It's Megatron 1, and that's my gamer tag. And then on Twitter, Megatron_1975. Yep, hit me up anytime.
Yeah, you heard the man. Hit him up. Definitely watch his feeds dropping soon. Jeremy, buddy, where can everybody follow the Downer for all the good controller needs?
When you say dropping, do you mean his viewership?
Oh my! Well, slowly growing.
Just kidding. You can find me on Twitter at SaloneMaster. Who07. You can also find me on Xbox. It's Downer Space J, capital J. And that's it.
Fantastic. Hope everybody got that. And last but not least on tonight's show, Centurion Pal. Where can everybody find you at?
They can always find me on Twitter, Xbox Live, and YouTube at Centurion1307. You can also find me doing the Shop Podcast on Saturday nights and right here with you fine gentlemen every Sunday night on TXR.
Of course. And of course, I'm Invader. You can find me on my channel, Invader Gaming, for all kinds of guides and reviews. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Invader_1986. Guys, have a good night, everyone. We look forward to seeing you on next week. Take it easy, fellas.
Later.